All right, so today we are going to be discussing some of the Star Wars games.
Mm,
This is a topic we've kind of not covered in depth very much over our span of the podcast, but we've
yeah.
kind of covered it a little bit. So we'll be going over some of the games that we liked, some that we loved, and some that were kind of a bit, not to what we enjoyed.
Mm, mm.
Um, Mark isn't here today, unfortunately, but hopefully he will be here next week. He's asked us to fill you guys in as to some of his opinions on the games as well. And also just go follow us on social media as well. That'd be greatly appreciated. So I
Mm.
think we want to start with the games we liked.
Yeah.
So games that we don't hold in high regard, but also games that aren't abysmal.
Yes, that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, Jack, do you want to start off with one of yours?
Yeah, one that I'm a bit on the fence about is this might be a bit different to what you might say, but we'll talk about it before. It's actually the new Lego Star Wars game. So I'm not going to mention the original one because I'll mention that later, but for the new one at least, the Skywalker is it the complete Skywalker saga?
Skywalker Saga, yeah.
Skywalker saga. Um it was okay. Like this, I didn't really like how they tried to implement like real like kind of strategy to the combat, like especially with the guns. It's just a bit.
Yeah.
It didn't have that same nostalgic kind of feeling I was hoping for when playing it. Because I mean, this is what I'm saying for people who are younger and starting out with this being their first game, they might connect with it more. But I just think it didn't have the same connection as it did when I played the original ones back in the day. It was a lot. They tried to make it more technical, a bit more. I think aiming it for more older kids, but I think that's where I almost went wrong in a way for me. I think
Yeah.
it's better when it's simple. People like Lego games because of their simplicity and their kind of repetitiveness. That's what makes them shine better, not for its advanced gameplay and stuff. And some of the level designs and choices were either really fast, they skipped over some bits here and there, and or they just basically copy and pasted it from the other one where I'm like, wow, you didn't even try to like be different.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's great. I wouldn't say it's bad. It was just kind of it was a lot more hyped than at the time when I was a bit, disappointed. I think for the outcome of it is where I'm coming from. Yeah.
So I think I might have had a similar experience to you. I put it in, I'll discuss it a bit more later, but I really quite enjoyed it in the first few hours of playing through. Then it got very repetitive, and I think that you nailed it in saying that they just made it too complicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in comparison to the complete saga, complete edition or whatever it was called, that was perfection because it was simple and told good story and it was a bit funny as well. This just felt almost a bit cheesy, but yeah, I don't disagree with a lot of the things you've said there.
Yeah. Um, do you want me to go into my other one that I'm a bit
Yeah, do it.
so this one's a hard one for me because it could easily shuffle more up to the I really like, but I think the way I'm basing it is a bit probably subjective because I'm still finishing, however I know the story of the new one, but I'm still playing through the second one that's tainting my opinion on the franchise of the game right now. I'm gonna say Jedi Fallen Order. So this is
Wow.
this is a bit of a hot take. So a lot of people raved upon it, but as you can see by my background, I think there is a far superior lightsaber combat story games that I'll mention later. And I think my main issue with it, and I'm having a major gripe with it in the newer one because I thought they would have fixed it by now, is the mechanics of the game in general. I think it's so choppy where when it comes to lightsaber like clashes, like you just start spamming it up close and then it gets all like the visuals and the feeling of it doesn't feel quite as fluid as it kind of wants to be. Especially the only time it does is when you get that perfect counter. That's when it kind of like looks like it's an actual lightsaber duel. I think they tried to capture the Dark Souls kind of, dodging, timing, and all that, but I don't think it really works for a Star Wars game, in my opinion, because it's not. Some parts are like extremely challenging, and then randomly at parts it'll be so easy. So I'm
Mm,
sitting here playing the game, going, "Wow, I need to almost lower the difficulty." But then in some parts, I'm like, "Wow, this is too easy now." So it's like, for example, the animal fights in Fallen Order, like the creatures, were so much harder than the actual Inquisitors and stuff. And I was like, It was on the same difficulty. And I'm just like, if you're a Jedi, you slice the arm of the creature that should be gone in 2 seconds. How they have a block like a shield, like kind of how you have to break down their stamina almost, and then
Yeah.
like this doesn't make any sense to me. However, the reason why it's not at the very obviously bottom is because I loved Fallen Order story. I thought it captured a perfect timeline for us. Cal, okay, this is another thing where obviously me and you were different. Cal's not my favorite character. I'll be honest. He's not my favorite, but he's passable for me. He progresses the story nicely. However, I think the story around him is more interesting in my opinion. The aspect of him trying to like stay on the run. I love the start of the game. I love the Inquisitors in the game. I loved obviously Darth Vader at the end of the game. I think we can talk. We won't talk about spoilers for the new one, obviously, because it's a bit more newer, I guess, still this year. But obviously the first one's a bit older. But I thought they introduced a new kind of story game for Star Wars, which has been missing for a while, like done perfectly. I just think it's not perfect, and I think that's my biggest gripe with the new one. I thought they didn't. I'll talk about it later because it's not in this category. It's not even in the average category. I just think they didn't improve upon um the issues in this game. I think that's where I'm coming from. There's too many issues to say it's a perfect game or like a game I loved wholeheartedly. Mm.
Okay. I obviously have some issues with what you're saying there,
Yeah.
and I will discuss them when I talk about games that I love.
Yeah.
But I want to throw a shout out to one of the most underrated games in the entire Star Wars media. Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, the mobile game.
Was
It is so good.
that the one that I said with the turn-based shooting? Maybe it
Oh
was.
yeah, no, you didn't say that though. You
Yeah.
said
Oh, well,
bounty
okay.
hunter. Anyway, um, it's
Yeah.
such a good game, and I feel like it's the only game that kind of culminates all media.
Mm.
Like it's got the characters from Jedi, Fallen Order, and Survivor. It's got characters from Star Wars Rebels. It's got characters from the Old Republic. It
Mhm.
just is such a mismatch, but it's a good combination of these characters,
Yeah.
and there's strategy involved because characters work well with other characters, and then there's mods, and you can go into the more detailed stuff. But I've been playing Galaxy of Heroes for so long, and it is one of my all-time favorite mobile games, and I just thought it deserved a shout out.
I think it would almost benefit more if it did become just a turn based on the console because I feel
Yeah.
like people nowadays don't give some people give credit to a lot of mobile games. Like back in the day, everyone played Tiny Tower and Candy Crush. It became a whole thing. But like everyone forgets about the actual like quality, well written gameplay stuff. So I think yeah, I agree with you on that one actually.
Well, I was just thinking because the new Marvel Midnight Suns game, that's turn-based, isn't it? So
Yeah,
if they did like a Star Wars version of that, that'd be awesome.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree completely.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you want to share another one of your ones?
Honestly, I'm okay. This is interesting. So I think I'll be once again. All this is opinion based because it's quite hard for us, obviously, for some of the Star Wars games that came out before we were too young to play it. But I'm gonna have to put Knights of the Old Republic and even Jedi Academy. I'm gonna categorize them in both because they're older games, but I'm gonna put them in the average category because one, I loved. Okay, so I love the story. I love some of the gameplay but because I didn't grow up in the time of it, it feels so outdated. Like it's painful, and I know I might get attacked a lot about it, but it's just painfully slow at some points. Some of the dialogue is a bit like too like what's it called expositiony. I don't know if that's even a word, but exposition dumps on you.
Yep.
Some of like the gameplay is just not fun. The graphics aren't great. Some of the bits are a bit confusing. Like there's no like clear like ways to go sometimes. I had myself getting a bit stuck on like the most simplest thing ever. So it's like I love the story. This whole era, especially of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic, is just an era that we need to explore way more. And I'm a bit disappointed. Apparently that they cancelled the new
A
remake.
remaster, yeah,
Remaster. So I'm
which is
like,
a shame.
that could have been what I was hoping for, just a modernized version of it. Don't change it too much, but just modernize it.
Yep.
So look, I'm a bit disappointed that that got cancelled, but it's still like a game that I think is, great story and it really changed the game industry for Star Wars, especially in storytelling, like showing that you can have a video game format tell a good story like you can in films and books and stuff. So it could easily go up to the top, but for me, it's just going to have to be in the middle. So yeah.
I completely agree with everything you just said there. I think what is so special about this game is it kind of is really feels separate to all the other Star Wars stuff. Like it's in its own time period that feels separate, but it's got so many familiar things. I remember playing it, and I too was very frustrated with some sections of trying to navigate, trying to get to different missions, trying to unlock different sections, trying to
Uh,
get my lightsaber. But overall, I think it was a really solid game. I had a good time playing it, and I just think it's really special. And I'm so upset the remaster's not
yeah,
happening anymore because I feel like that is a massive,
we need it.
massive missed opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, can I talk about one of the new, well, I'd say one of the newer games, probably coming up on almost 10 years of release. I want to talk about
Gosh,
the Battlefront 1 from 2015.
oh my gosh, I completely forgot. Yeah, you go about it. Yep.
So
Yeah.
I put this in my light, not in my loved or hated.
Mhm. Mhm.
The reason it's going in light is because there is another Battlefront game that's better for me, but that by no means means that this is a bad game. This is really good. The graphics are incredible. Um, I still have nightmares from survival mode. That
Yeah.
is that is terrifying. The Ewoks, oh not the Ewoks, the Stormtroopers on Endor. That's just so scary.
Mhm.
But I like that there was a collection. That was pretty cool. That was different. I like that I feel like the customization was a lot like better in this game in terms of the cards you could choose.
Oh,
You could
yeah.
like customize your loadout to
Yeah.
like the character, not a class, like in Battlefront 2.
Mhm.
Um, but I just thought that one, it was expensive to
Boom.
do that
My
stuff,
point. My
and
point.
two, that a lot of the good content was locked behind DLCs.
ELC.
Now, I need to add that I wasn't late to Battlefront per se, but by the time I got it, all of the DLCs were out. So I bought the like collector's edition, so all
Yeah.
of the DLCs, but no one played it anymore.
Exactly.
And that was really annoying because I wanted to play on Scarif,
Yeah.
wanted to do the Death Star stuff.
But Jakku too.
Jakku, yeah, Jabba's Palace, I think. Was it Jabba's Palace?
Uh, I don't know. I'm not actually sure.
It was one. Anyway,
Is my thing to add to it. I didn't even end up getting the DLC because I was a person who got the game on launch and then was like, wow, there's like 3 maps and 2 game modes. I'm like, what is this? But I was like, the gameplay was so fun, but it got repetitive because you kept playing the same game modes and the same maps. So
yeah.
when by the time the DLC came out, I was like, oh, I might just wait for another Battlefront game at this point.
I,
So yeah,
I will say that this probably felt the most Battlefront in my opinion. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if that's just because it was original era specific, but in comparison to Battlefront 2 just feels massive. Doesn't even feel like a
yeah,
focused game.
yeah.
But Battlefront 1 definitely. And we should mention this was Mark's favorite game. He wanted to suggest that.
So this
Um,
would be in his love category, which
yes.
we're going to get to. So we might as well just mention it now. He
Yeah.
says he did like to tell you guys that he thought the graphics were unreal for the time it came out. It was 2015, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And what else did he say about it? He goes, the gameplay was really fun. He sunk so many hours
Hours into it. Yeah.
in the
That's
game.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He had a lot
that's
of fun. I remember I don't think I ever played with Mark, but I know that he had a lot of fun on that game and he never he talks about it quite a lot. So I mean it's
yeah.
good to see someone passionate. And I think the servers technically are still up, so people can still play it.
Yeah.
But
I think it would just be
um
very hard, like the to get into.
yeah,
But
you'd be very lucky to get into a lobby. But yeah, that's Battlefront 1. A very, very good start for the new Battlefront series.
hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you have any more in your liked category?
Look, there's so many games out there for Star Wars that we were trying to go through them all beforehand, and we just keep listing off new ones that we forgot about. And there's some that we probably missed, but who knows? Hey, there could be another extension to it one day, or if it comes up as a remake, we can talk about it. So I think for now we can move on. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
How do I move to didn't like? Because I feel
yeah.
like this one could be controversial, maybe.
This is very controversial. Oh
Yeah,
wow,
okay. So
one that
I'll
we both
start off.
agree.
We kind of well, I put Skywalker Saga in my hated. We spoke about it before, but I just I think it was a waste of money for me because it didn't fulfill me as a Star Wars fan. I I thought that it almost didn't feel like a Lego game because it looked so good, which seems so weird to
Yeah,
say. but
It's smooth.
it didn't feel like a Lego game. It
Felt
just
like
felt
just
like a cartoony Star Wars game. Anyway,
yeah. Mm.
and then I'd also like to say that I did not like Star Wars Squadrons. I
Yeah.
thought that I gotta be honest, I didn't even finish the game.
Mm.
Wasn't amazing, wasn't bad, but it was not my cup of tea. I did not enjoy the story elements of it,
Hmm.
but it was all right. I would rather play Battlefront 2's Starfighter mode than this game.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
that's
unnecessary.
I think that's exactly what a lot of people like to say. It's like, why make a whole separate game which is exactly the same functions and mechanics as that?
Hmm.
I think that's the one I completely agree upon, not the Skywalker saga, but Squadrons. I thought the story was fine, but like when I'm saying fine, it was like just passable. I wouldn't even say it's that interesting. But the gameplay was like at times so they try to make it so overcomplicated with all the buttons and the stuff you had to do with changing the shields and the even when you were like flying, the sensitivity was actually kind of crazy at some points, and it was like hard to keep track of ships. I'm like, I understand you're trying to make it a bit difficult so you have a high skill gap in multiplayer and stuff. But when your
Yeah,
game's solely based on flying, that has to be accessible to all people. I'm really not good at flying in these Star Wars games. So as someone like me, I didn't feel included into like that multiplayer. I just kept getting wiped out by all these sweats, and I didn't
yeah.
have any time at all. So yeah, just not a good game for me at all. So yeah, it has to go
Mm.
the bad one. Mm.
Now, I haven't put this game in here, but I feel like you did. Did you put Jedi Survivor in?
I haven't said it yet, but yeah,
Do you want to talk about it now?
I can talk about it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, they came out earlier this year. Yes, I technically haven't finished playing it, but I have obviously I know the outcome of the story because one, it's the internet nowadays, it gets spoiled in the first 2 weeks almost. So I wasn't going to end up avoiding it, but the story, okay, the story is not hot garbage for me, but it's also I'm not going to go into spoilers, but it's just not it's not great as my I preferred the first story. Let's just say that. I had a lot more fun with the first story. I connected with the first story more. It felt more linear. It felt more to the Star Wars franchise. Playing this game's story, I just felt like they were trying to go off on a bit of a tangent in terms of the entire galaxy, more about Cal and his crew, which I get, but in my opinion, that wasn't what I loved about the first game. So that's probably my issue too. Main issue here. As I'm playing it now, so with my life, I have more free time now. So I've been playing the game a lot more. And as someone who's a massive Star Wars fan, wow, it's painfully hard for me to get through because of how clunky the mechanics are in this one. So they added a more open world esque feature, obviously by exploring more of like the planets you go to. And oh, some of the traversal is still bad. How is the like every sort of like plot you're going through involves Cal running on some creaky bridge or some like wall that will break, and then you fall down to a lower level and you have to get back up the long way. Oh, look, here's these powerful orbs that power up this thing that you have to do a weird puzzle. And then some of the points are so hard to like figure out where to go because it's so what's it called like so basic on the ground. Like everything looks flat. I don't know. A lot of the mechanics I thought which would have been improved in this game is exactly the same as Fallen Order. How do you not improve it? You have so many years. The graphics are still the same too. It's not even like much different. And when Cal's even running it at points and sometimes, I'm just like, I'm running on a PS5 and it looks like the world is still generating as I'm playing it. I'm like, this is not really a polished game. It feels like it was a DLC extension of the first one. It and also just I know this is not a big gripe for it, but the storage is crazy on it. It's like 150 gigs
I was just
plus.
about to mention that. I went to
Like
get the
what?
game just to check what it was. 155 gigabyte
Yeah.
storage.
And every day I wake up to go on my PlayStation, it's almost like another update for. I'm like, what are they doing? It hasn't changed anything. The graphics are still the same. I don't know. It's just I have died so many times, and okay, I don't call myself a gamer noob. I'm pretty good at a lot of games, more shooters than like obviously like story games. But I have died so many times to just the error of the game when I'm like going to wall run on something and it just turns me in the other direction and then I fall off the map. And I know it's not a big like issue because you just go straight back, but you lose a bit of health. That's not the issue. The issue is that it just ruins the flow of momentum of this game. It feels longer and it makes me more angry. So the more angry I am playing it, the more less inclined I am to finish it. And that's where I'm coming from. This game was not better than the other one in story. The gameplay was basically the same. So in my head, I'm like, is this just a DLC that has not even been that improved on from in the end, I'm just like, what do they do? What do they do with this one? So it is disappointing. I think that's the key word for me. I was disappointed indeed.
So you've kind of touched on my issues with the game as well. Like, I don't think the combat and the mechanics are as bad as you are saying. I can understand why you think that, but I think that the overall gameplay improved. I think that adding so many different lightsaber combat styles
Oh, that
really
was
helps the game flow more.
that was okay.
Um, what my issue is, and it's also what I praise the game for, is that it is so much bigger.
Mm.
One world in particular is bigger. The rest is the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Kobo is probably the best thing they've done, but they've done it in the worst way.
So tedious to
First of all, there are so many areas that are feel impossible to get to that you have to explore.
yeah,
Second of all, it doesn't tell you where on the map you haven't explored, so you have like to find out
yeah.
where to complete the 100% of the area. Third thing, and my main gripe, is that the side quest, I do not feel inclined to complete any of the side quests. I think there's a bounty hunting one,
Yeah.
which is all right. Um, what else? Oh yeah, there's the Jedi Jedi slash Force training areas.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
like spoil what it's about, but like
Mm.
there's those ones. I just Kobo to me,
It's not a
it's
planet that I really want to explore. That's the issue. It doesn't look
oh
like
okay, I disagree with you on
what
that.
is Coruscant? Like a nice city landscape where you have multiple layers and like this one just feels like a rocky terrain everywhere. Like it doesn't look
Well,
neat.
so I do and don't agree with you. So yes, it'd be better to do Coruscant, but I almost feel like it'd be too much of the same. Kobo has enough that's different about it. It's got the forest array, which feels different to the main rocky terrain. Then you got the Luca Hulk,
Yeah.
which is like its own world essentially. And then you've got the Sky Fortress up in the sky, which I mean I don't really want to go explore every time because it's a pain in the ass to get up there.
Hate that.
But I feel like there's enough different with Kobo.
Yeah.
Visually it looks good, but just the content that's included, I don't like. And then there's the stuff in Greaser's Cantina. Like the
Shit.
games, I don't want to play like
Yeah.
the game where you put troops on the battlefield and they fight each other. I
Yeah.
don't want to collect music discs for the cantina that I'm never gonna be in.
Those stupid record things.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
I
I'm never
just
listening to me. I'll just search it up on Spotify.
and then another thing, the customization in this game is great, but I used the same style the whole way through and I
And
didn't
change
really
my
change it.
haircut.
So it's like I don't know. Look,
A
for
lot of
me,
hot or nothing.
Jedi Survivor, nowhere near the first one, and the more time I've had to reflect on it, the more I realize it's not an amazing game. I still like it. I think the story is okay. I don't like the ending because I feel like it kind of
Okay.
feels a bit what's the right word? Not rushed, but it feels almost a bit corny, cheesy.
You could kind of see it coming though in a way. Like it wasn't
Yes.
how do we do this without spoiling?
Well, actually, you know what the best part of the game was for me, and the best part of the story? It was the first mission on Coruscant
Yes. I was
with
gonna
the whole crew
I'm gonna
and
set you
like
free. Yeah.
yeah. And sorry, I've got to do this one more time. In the trailer for Jedi Survivor, they had this guy at the very start. You meet him at the very start, the politician on Coruscant. He looks like the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah.
Wielding a red lightsaber. I
Yeah.
thought, awesome, this guy's gonna be cool. And he just ends up getting stabbed in the first 10 minutes of the game.
I
No
mean,
lightsaber wielding, no nothing.
it's a plot
Waste
twist.
of a character.
It's a plot twist in a way. What's it called? The expectations that we like to set. Subverted expectations.
But I didn't even feel I just was disappointed by it.
Last Jedi for me. So, no, but that's so funny. But I understand. Actually, I was in complete agreement of you. I love that first mission. I thought if it like when playing that, I was like, oh my gosh, this game's gonna be so good. I was like, this is like the gameplay mechanic was pretty good at that point in time. There wasn't tedious climbing. It was a lot of just fighting a lot of troops and kind of escaping. It just felt good. It felt like a grander scale. And then it felt like I went back to the silly wall running up rocks. And I'm like, I'm sick of this.
And you know what's most unfortunate is that I think about 80% of the story or the 80% of the map on Coruscant is explored through the story. So it's like
There's no really need to go back
there's
to
no
it.
need to go back. There's maybe a couple of hidden crates or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Different.
Maybe a couple of mysteries. I don't know. It's been a while since I've played it, but I do remember it pretty well. Um, Jedi Survivor. I feel like this has turned into more of a critique of Jedi Survivor than a
Well,
discussion of the games, but
but the thing is, it's recent. It literally
it is
came out
recent.
this year. So it's more like a lot more people who are probably listening to this right now has had the experience of playing it. So
Yeah.
more than
Also, I kind of feel like I know you haven't reached the end, but at least with Jedi Fallen Order, I felt that there was a natural path for it to go down now.
mm,
I really don't feel that way about. There's this massive thing that happens,
mm.
like on a Ahsoka level,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
galaxy changing thing that happens
yeah. I
that
know that.
supposedly happened between Revenge of the Sith
Mm,
and A New Hope, never mentioned again. And like it is massive, and I
mm.
just don't know how they're going to incorporate it and keep it meaningful moving forward
It's
into the
just
next
like
game because we
it's
know
like
the next
canon, but
game's
not,
happening.
it's like canon but not canon almost. It's a bit
Yeah,
weird. Like they say it's canon, but nothing's ever really branched out of it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Anyway, that's enough about Jedi Survivor.
We go into our loved, unless you have any
Yeah,
more.
let's do it. Let's do it. You start.
Alright. Okay, so let's go with my number one. So this was actually hard for me to do because one of the games that I might do two on the same level as number one because one of them's a multiplayer game and one of them's a story game. And they're both very different in their own right. So my favorite multiplayer Star Wars game is the original Battlefront 2. Now, only reason for this is because it had a great story, like with kind of it had like these when you go into like the planets, it will give you like added context, like from relating to like Revenge of the Sith or Attack of the Clones, and I don't know, it just kind of had like a movie feel to it. The absolute fun that I had with it though, that I loved the most, was fighting the computers. So I played the game when I was like obviously young, and it wasn't really in its prime. It was a bit before, like I played it after its prime once again. So it's kind of like I didn't get a chance to do it like multiplayer kind of thing. But my reason is I had so much fun against bots and computers that I kept going back and back. And even when I was like a couple of years ago, I literally went back and played it again and still had the same amount of fun. I hate playing against bots and computers on any game, really. I don't like that at all. But this game just felt so like authentic and true, and it made me feel like I was a clone when I was playing as a clones. Heroes and villains was the perfect in this. You were overpowered, but when you were fighting the other heroes and villains, it was just like who's more overpowered. It was so much fun. There was no clashing duel like who taps what. There was no like, oh, you have to unlock so many points in the game to play as the thing. This was so much fun. Iconic maps, iconic everything, nostalgia to the max for me. My favorite multiplayer game. Done. Favorite story game. Now, I think I definitely preferred. Okay, as you can see in my background, Force Unleashed. I hold both of these games dearly to my heart. One is better in my opinion than two because I didn't really like the way that they did with the clone kind of thing with Galen. However, though, in the first one, I will never forget seeing like you start build up the game. You're playing as Darth. You're going through the Wookiees. You're throwing them off the edge. You know toying with them. You felt overpowered. Now this I'd like to mention this game made you feel overpowered. Jedi games did not make me feel like I felt like I was always the weaker one against troopers with like a shock troop. Like I felt like I was the weakest one there. This one makes me feel like I'm overpowered. And yes, you might say, well, there's not much difficulty with that, but you still could increase the difficulty. It was still a bit difficult, but the force abilities you could do like almost every 2 seconds, and that's the whole fun of it. You want to play as the force wielder. You want to have your hands on the wheel the whole time. Anyway, when Darth comes in and takes on this apprentice. Also, when I played this at the time, I had no idea this was not canon. So I was like, oh my gosh, Darth did this. I have no idea he had a secret apprentice. What? This is unreal. Also, like to mention, I am traumatized for life after when you first, when you're playing a Star Killer and you're versing that, I forgot his name, the Jedi. What's his name again?
I can't remember.
Oh, it wasn't Kobe. Could have been Kobo or something. I don't know. Oh no, that's the planet. It was Anyway, the first Jedi you encounter that Darth sends you on your mission, you have to kill him because he's a survivor from Order 66. It took me like 3 days to beat him, and I was a little kid. And wow, I got so angry. I couldn't beat it. I didn't change the difficulty. I couldn't beat it. It traumatizes me. So every time I see that guy's face, I get scarred for life. Anyway, amazing game. Cutscenes were amazing. Story was amazing. Boba Fett appearing in it was amazing. It was just the game was unreal, and it followed like characters that I really like in the franchise, like Darth, Emperor, even Galen now. But it was so good. It was just when I think of it, I just have a massive smile on my face. It was just fun, and this image here is just iconic too. Like everyone knows Starkiller and the Star Destroyer. But yes, so that's my favorite Star Wars game of all time, I have to say. And I would like to do an honorable mention because I know Cooper will go into it. But as I mentioned before, OG Battlefront 2, new Battlefront 2, loved it too. That multiplayer was so good. Love playing it. The reason why I didn't want to mention it as a proper conversation is because I didn't really like the story that much. It was kind of short, pretty easy to get through. I liked Luke in the story. He was unreal, but I'm sure Cooper will get into that. But those three games I do hold to a high esteem, and I just love them so much. And I hope Force Unleashed hopefully gets a remaster or just like updated graphics or something. And perfect, I'll love to play it again. But that's my favorite games. So yeah.
Cool. I will say quickly, I did enjoy the Force Awakens. Not the Force Awakens, sorry. The Force Unleashed. I did enjoy the Force Awakens, but I enjoyed the Force Unleashed. I didn't play two, but I've seen the ending. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Mm.
I want to take you back to
Ooh, take it back.
a date. I just can't remember what year it is. I think it was 2018.
I think that is the right.
October 4th, 2018.
Ooh.
The highly anticipated sequel to Star Wars Battlefront was on the horizon. And anyone who pre-ordered Star Wars Battlefront 2 got to access the beta for Battlefront 2.
So,
Now, this was groundbreaking. We got Naboo. We got four heroes, Darth Maul, Boba Fett, Han Solo, and I think it was Rey.
yeah, right.
Awesome. And what did poor old Cooper do?
Oh
He
no.
sat crying because the beta didn't work for him. He'd pre-ordered it and he couldn't open it. He couldn't access it.
So
It
funny.
was terrible. It was my early birthday present. What a terrible way to spend a couple days.
That's so funny.
I got in contact with air support. No, they didn't do anything.
They're not gonna do
I
anything.
had to wait until October 6th when the beta was available for everyone. And I only got 3 days of pure magic.
Yeah.
But I will say, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is my all-time favorite game. The new one, I should say. I consider it a disservice that it is still not operating, like being worked on by EA
That's and
currently.
that's because they basically were like, yeah, it's too much effort to keep it going.
It
But the
is.
fan was easily there to continue updates and
Oh yeah.
everything.
People still play. I still play it now. It's a great game.
It's
But
unreal.
the fact that it did probably one of the biggest turnarounds in gaming
Oh yeah, that's
history,
great.
it
Yep.
was a pay to win game essentially. There were
Everyone-
characters unlocked behind ridiculous credit prices and really weak character missions as well.
Yeah. Wow.
And then they completely flipped it to make it just an immersive Star Wars experience. And I think it did it so well. It introduced incredible, well, not introduced, but it had incredible graphics,
Mhm.
introduced great new characters for sequels that we hadn't seen in previous Battlefronts. As much as you might hate the sequels, Jack, I
Yeah.
think that Rey and Kylo Ren have great lightsaber combat skill sets. Finn has a really good loadout, and
They do in the
Phasma is great as well.
game. I do like playing them in the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
The maps, awesome.
Oh yeah,
Great
100%.
maps. They look amazing. They feel amazing. The game
Mm.
modes, not too complicated. They're pretty straightforward, but they
Because
still work really well. Galactic Assault,
scares
my
me.
all-time favorite one, coming from Walker Assault and Battlefront. Oh yeah, that was good. Um, I just I so wish this game was still going. There's so many characters they should have added. And if they do not do a Battlefront 3, I am going to lose my mind because I need to feel satisfied that it can keep growing. There's so much stuff that they can do.
My thing is, the recent Battlefield field games have been no good. And it's the same company, right?
Yeah.
Like half of the same company. Why can't they just put all their dedication back into Battlefront 3 and just focus on Battlefront 3? Because it's basically Battlefield just with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like instead of tanks, you've got walkers. Instead of pilot things, you've got aircrafts, right? Instead of ground troopers, you got clones. I'm like, it's exactly the same, basically. Just
Yeah.
make it Star Wars. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Come on. What's happening? But yeah.
Anyway, Battlefront 2 is my favorite, but I also just want to finish, and I think it'll be in your loved as well. We kind of touched on it. The Lego Star Wars
Yeah.
Complete Saga, episode 1 to 6, that was way, way better than Skywalker Saga. I don't know what went wrong for
Like
Skywalker Saga, but
overcomplicating a simple concept. It's a Lego game. You're
yeah,
meant to there. You're playing a Lego game to have fun, have those cheesy one-liners, or those like those non-verbal jokes of like scenes that you loved as a kid.
yeah,
The bar fights that you start and everyone starts
I
dancing.
guess.
So
Yeah,
good, so good. It
yeah,
was
it was a lot better. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, and I'm sure you agree, Jack.
100%,
Yeah.
100%.
Do you have any more games you want to talk about?
Honestly, not really. I like to mention that the Star Wars games kind of side of it has been really lacking in the past recent years. You think about a lot of those older games, we didn't get a chance to play them that much because we're a bit, still on the younger side. But when you think of it, all the newer games are just either the two Battlefronts, a lot of the newer like Lego Star Wars games based off the movie ones. We don't need to talk about that. It's
Yeah,
kind of
no.
some old stuff. And the two Jedi games. That's really it. But we do have, I like to mention that we do have Star Wars Outlaws coming out. Now, just very briefly, I am skeptical because everyone, like, you're playing as one kind of character. Everyone's going to be playing as the same sort of character. No, even if there's customization on that character, everyone's still that one character. We already have that with Cal. In a game where it's meant to be open world, wouldn't you want kind of individualism? So when you go to
Mm,
the game, you can play as an alien, you can play as a droid, you can play as a Sith, you can play as a bounty hunter, or anything. Like it's called Outlaws. Anyone can be an outlaw. I don't understand why games are kind of restricting you into one sort of format. Like you can still have the same sort of storyline, just have a different appearance or different move set or different. Just so every time you reboot the game, you can play as a different class and it would feel different. Something like that.
yeah.
So I'm skeptical. I only seen like one trailer. Don't really know anything else about it, so it could blow my mind still. But we might cover it when it comes out and even put out some stuff on it. So yeah,
Oh, definitely.
100%.
I was also just going to mention that Star Wars Eclipse, that game that was announced like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, that
Yeah.
looked phenomenal. We get like minor updates about it, still being worked on, it's still going okay. But then we
Yeah.
get other reports saying, no, it's dead in the water. They're not
People
working on it anymore.
aren't working. Some people left. Oh well, they must.
I hope we get it personally because it looks really good.
24.
It's meant to come out in 2027,
Yeah,
which is still, well, I guess we're coming up in 2024, so 3 and a bit years away.
yeah.
I hope we get it, but yes, those are two games, and the third Jedi game is also coming. So that's three that we know about at the moment, and hopefully
Everything's
more.
going to be the remake too, but remaster, but that's not happening. So
Yeah, it's a shame. Star Wars games are kind of in a weird spot at the moment.
they're not like high, but they're also not doing poorly. It's kind
Yeah,
of they're in an awkward middle ground, no man's land almost.
yeah,
They could be a lot better than they are. I think that's my gripe.
yeah.
They have so much creative freedom that you don't have to make canon. You can do so many different types of games, but they're not doing them to the perfection. So it's a bit like, what's happening?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. All right, I think that should bring the end to a very good discussion about Star Wars games. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week, hopefully with Mark here, with our best moments from each Star Wars project, which will be exciting. Yeah. All right, see you guys.
Gotcha.